Hey Tammy, so for the purpose of this article, I'm going to actually do the walkthrough first and then I'll go through what you've written. So we've got here chickens range free. Now, this is actually a pun on free range chickens. So you're probably familiar with free range eggs and things like that. So yeah, basically it's a clever pun, so it's meant to draw the reader's attention because obviously if the writer opens with a clever pun, then the readers will be inclined to think the rest of the article is going to be quite clever as well. And what they've done here is obviously the chickens are now ranging free because they've been let out of their cage. Now, of course, we're also going to be drawn to this image. Now you can see that the chickens are what we call a bit henpecked because they've had a lot of their feathers sort of pecked out. So this suggests that they're in really kind of bad conditions, not healthy at all, missing a lot of feathers, and they also seem to be, behind bars in prison. So this again makes us sort of feel a lot of sympathy for these chickens, and because they're imprisoned and they're being mistreated, we immediately, by looking at it, want to set them free, and that's going to help position us on the same side as this animal rights activist Joe Smith. So I'll go through this with you. So here, Joe Smith is asserting his or herself as an authority by saying a member of Australian for Animal Rights. Okay, so they show them to be themselves to be personally vested in the issue and know more about it. Therefore, the readers will be inclined to appreciate more what they have to say. You know, there's a lot of assertive language like only way and oppressed. Okay, so suggesting here in a very strong way that there was no other option. Therefore, the readers are going to empathize with them because they realize, that they had no choice. Now, risked life and limb is actually a cliche. We tend to say this a lot. Somebody risked life and limb. Using that familiar language can help reduce the social distance between the writer and the reader, making their message a lot easier to convey. Okay. Now, here, by saying the local media have fallen over themselves, it makes them look a bit sort of slapstick, sort of like with the comedy. They're kind of like uncoordinated, disorganized. So we're meant to view the local media critically here. Okay. So, by quoting, having select quotes from the radio presenter, idiotic clowns, antisocial hippies and bludgers, it's a lot of very offensive sort of attacks that are coming from that radio presenter. So, and the main word I think I would focus on is sneering. So, sneering is a horrible way of commenting, to kind of smile or speak in a really mocking manner, kind of. So it's portraying the talkback radio presenter in a negative light. Therefore, if we don't like how he sounds, we're not going to want to listen to what he has to say. Now, so what happens then is we switch from a tone of attacking the radio presenter, and we're looking down now at the Australians for Animal Rights. And we've got a lot of, we believe as humans, we're not only doing the animals an injustice when we mistreat them, but we're doing ourselves an injustice. So we've got a real change in tone here. This sounds a lot more heroic rather than nasty. So who would you rather support, the nasty radio presenter or the heroic Australians? And notice the inclusiveness, we Australians, okay? So we're included in that group. Therefore, we're going to be more likely to share their view. It's interesting. They were making the Australians sound like heroes, but now we're looking at all these things that we've done that are not good, overpopulating, drastically decreasing. So, overpopulated, drastically decreased, abominably cruel ways. Probably I would just quote this part here, and we're evoking a sense of guilt. So if you feel guilty about something, you need to then take action to make it up, so to make it right again. This is an interesting philosophical question. Is abusing other species a step towards condoning widespread human rights abuses? You know, they often talk about drugs or marijuana smoking. They say it's a gateway drug, and before you know it, you're doing more drastic things like heroin. It's suggesting this here, you know, the mistreatment of animals is going to lead to more mistreatments of humans, and this affects the reader because if they don't care too much about animals, they might care about their fellow human. And once they realize that there is a link, they will be more likely to caution that type of behaviour. Furred and feathered friends, we've got that alliteration so that that phrase can be a bit more memorable. And obviously this thing of the same rights comes back to the appeal of to justice and fairness, which is meant to be one of our innate values. Okay, here we have our actual facts, you know, the sizes of the cage. So the research helps to make this more credible and believable. Hmm. So quoting a philosopher here, Jeremy Bentham or whatever, um, you know, it helps to make this writer sound a lot more educated. Therefore, that encourages the reader to respect them and therefore respect their point of views. Hmm. And we finish here with a well-known saying, you know, the end justifies the means. So I guess it gives it a nice sort of solid ending and helps the readers relate this to a principle that they're familiar with. What I'll do is I'll actually finish that recording there, and I'm going to put the feedback to your response in a separate sound file.